10 harbors, 6,000 boats, 184 days. And then Chicago gets cold and they all vanish. And I never thought to ask myself where they went until I had to go get one myself. Thousands of boats line Chicago's 10 harbors along Lake Michigan. There are over 100,000 registered boats in Illinois. Once the water gets too cold, it becomes near impossible to keep them in the water, which brings a few questions. Where did they all go? You know, it's not like these boats just disappeared.
From the dusty mesa, her looming shadow grows.
My grandma is at a boat docked in one of Chicago's harbors for as long as I can remember. Every summer, looking out on the lake on a Saturday, nobody really in a rush to leave, and this summer, I had to go get it. So when I started wondering where all these boats actually go, it wasn't just a random question, it was something that had already been in the background, without ever really thinking to ask. Bolton, Illinois. So I started where everyone starts, a one-way Uber to the boatyard. While there are many boats in this yard, this is just one boatyard. Where did the others go? But before we get to that, we need to understand how these boats are stored. For this explanation, I'll be using saran wrap and a bag of Valentine's Day candy because it is now July. Stay with me here. Okay, so 6,000 boats, 100 boats for candy. Now there's basically two ways you can store your boat. You have two options. You have the shed and you have the other option. Now there's 6,000 boats in total, so that would be about this many candies. In Lake Michigan and down the Chicago rivers, there's about 10 private major boat storage companies, housing about 2,000 boats in total, so that would be about this many here, leaving about 4,000 other boats in total. So as you can see, there's quite a lot left that can be pulled out of the water, but they don't have an actual place to go inside for the winter. So where do they go? When you're storing your boat for the winter, you have two options. Option number one, you could put it in the shed over here, and your other option is to saran wrap it. Shrink wrapping your boat. Now the remaining hulls are wrapped in plastic. Basically what they do, they take plastic and they wrap it all around the hull of the boat, just like this. And so basically what this does is it's a very cost-effective way of keeping all of the hull of the boat very protected from the weather, bugs, dust, rocks, anything that happens during the winter. It protects the hull of the boat from any damage. And there's a cover on the top, and that pretty much keeps the boat in pristine condition so that when the summer rolls around, the boat's ready to go. And it's almost as good as keeping it in the shed, but obviously the shed helps a lot more just because it's a completely enclosed space. One river, 8 bridges, 3 lift operators, and 1 lock. This is what I like to call the boat obstacle course, or in other words, how we're going to get our boat from the harbor, from where it's being repaired, and into the lake for the summer. But before we get to that, we need to understand how these locks actually work. Back in the 1800s, the Chicago River flowed completely naturally. The problem was the city was dumping its sewage straight into the same river, which meant it all ended up back in Lake Michigan, the same water Chicago was drinking. This spread diseases like typhoid, cholera, dysentery, killing thousands of people. So the city proposed to reverse the entire river, making it flow away from the lake instead of into it. It took years, and when the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal finally opened in 1900, the river's flow actually reversed. It was such a massive feat in engineering that in 1955, the American Society of Civil Engineers named it as one of the wonders of U.S. engineering. But reversing the river created a new problem. Now the river and the lake didn't match up as they sat at different water levels, making it impossible for boats to drive straight from one to the other. Fixing it took years, eventually leading to a Supreme Court order in 1930. The U.S. Supreme Court told Chicago it had to build a lock to control the water that was flowing into the river. Constructing it started in 1937. The Chicago Harbor Lock officially opened in 1938. Today, it's the second busiest harbor lock in the entire country, letting in around 50,000 vessels through every year. So it's safe to say they're pretty important, even if the sewage issue might be gone. So how do they work? Well, it's pretty simple. You basically have boats on each side. One of the gates opens, allowing for one side to enter into the chamber. The gate closes, the water level rises or lowers depending which side you're on, and then the other side opens. Pretty easy. The process runs pretty much all day, switching back and forth so boats can enter, and this works pretty much just like this on the main locks right next to Navy Pier. The problem is, the lock we're at is just one dude at a box, paid minimum wage, and sometimes takes hours to open the locks. But that won't stop us now, would it? All right, gotta see if we can fit. We're good. We're okay. This massive barge.
There's a road I'd like to tell you about. Lives in my hometown. Lakeshore Drive, the road is called, and it'll take you up or down. From rats on up to riches, 15 minutes you can fly. Pretty blue lights along the way, help you right on by. And the blue lights shining with a heavenly grace, help you right on by. And there ain't no road just like it anywhere I found. We're running south on Lakeshore Drive, getting into town.
So how did 6,000 boats move into storage at the end of 184 days? Well, for us, 1 river, 10 bridges, 4 left operators, and 1 lock.